a Formula One car before even joining the grid or even being confirmed to join, while Formula One pretty much denies them of everything. But with this Formula One car and this wind tunnel spec that we have, that show us that their Formula One relationship is growing and they could be announced pretty soon. Now this car takes heavy inspiration off of a certain 2022 car, but the tweaks on the car are very important as to why I think this is so close to becoming a deal for Andretti. Now obviously Formula One has been against them, even though they put this car in the wind tunnel before even being on the grid. They have a planned prototype by mid-2024 to be 100% in that wind tunnel. Right now the car isn't full size, it's only 60%, but that's still a big contribution to what other teams have done even in the past. There are teams that work through a wind tunnel on a 50% car for most of the time. There is a team over the size of 120 people working there in the aero and technical department, which is already humongous for where they're even at. They're not even on the grid currently. And what they've been doing in Formula E and IndyCar, the traction that they have gained for American fans, but what they've also done, that heritage between Michael Andretti and his father is a huge thing, especially for a team joining as an American team. With Formula One trying to grow in America, this can really influence it even more. So why say no to the entry, but yes to a team like Haas? Now, I'm not going to just go in and cook Haas, but they're like the complete opposite of what this team is trying to achieve. They want to become a force to be reckoned with in Formula One, like his father, who won a world championship. They want to be that type of standard. They have a deal with GM and Cadillac to actually take the team to the next level with their own engines by 2028. That is at least the goal for this team. But Haas, they take parts from Ferrari. It's pretty much a scrapped Ferrari car. That's why I call it the butter shredder, because its tires always get destroyed in almost every single race. They barely even survive a qualifying session if they don't get out of Q1. And the team as a whole has been on a downfall. Now, I wasn't huge on Gunther Steiner being in the team, but with him now being out of the team and, you know, Gene Haas giving no investment to the team, they're going to be pretty mid-sized. And also with their new team principal stating that they will be the worst car in 2024 at the beginning of the season. Now that is very high hopes for the 4 Haas F1 fans. Maybe now it'll be divided to 2 Haas F1 fans. But speaking of that 2024 car, there are some renders that are out for what their new car will be on Friday that we see. There is a shot of the rear with new parts that I wanted to talk about. Now, as you can tell, it's a pretty dark picture. They didn't want to show too many details, but I have discovered some things. On the actual halo, the winglets there, they're very similar to Aston Martin, a new upgrade. They did not have that before. Now, the biggest thing you can see here, and it's pretty obvious, is the engine cover. Before, they had a pretty basic engine cover that was not good. A big change now, it's very more RB19-like, and the cooling louvers on this car are identical to the RB19 or AMR23. Should be helpful with airflow, and it looks like they have a more downwash type concept, but we can't exactly see that from this picture, but we can tell that the engine cover is very much like the Red Bull. Now, they also did a cutout in the wingtip to optimize, obviously, their rear wing. They were one of the teams that did not have this, and neither did Ferrari. They were pretty close, Ferrari, but they did not have that at all, and I do expect every single team to actually do that by the end of the season. They still have a pull rod rear suspension. That's a big thing to note, because for Ferrari, they should keep the pull rod as well then if Haas has it, because they take all those parts. So it'll be interesting to see that the actual reports on the car were wrong, at least in that aspect. And last thing I wanted to note was that the beam wing itself is, I guess, a little bit more revised and more Red Bull-like, but they were already pretty strong on their DRS efficiency, and I think this should continue going on into 2024. But speaking of that and its Red Bull consistencies or comparisons, looking at the Andretti car that is in this wind tunnel, it is very apparent that this car takes heavy inspiration, if not copycat inspiration, off of the RB18. It's got that RB19 features as well, but mainly RB18. But why did Andretti do this? Well, if they're going to join in 2025, which is the rumor currently, if they join in a year, their only chance is to copy the best car and go off of that concept. Obviously in 26 will probably be a year that'll be newer for them, more refreshed. They've now been in sport for a year, but they've been working on a different car with that different set of regulations that gives them a better chance. But going into 25, with a car like this can only prove to be like, all right, let's see what is the best aspect that we can do with this car and what can we pull off with a kind of copycat car, but still our own version. So what is a copycat here? Well, obviously the downwashing side pods with the little cut in the middle that puts some outwash on the outside of the car. That is pretty much a copy, with also the side pod inlet. The undercut in the side pod, identical as well to the Red Bull. Floor, very similar, especially the philosophy in the floor of the upper floor. We can't see the bottom of the floor. Now the front wing, exactly like the RB18, with a few tweaks that I do want to mention. The rear wing itself has that cutout in the middle, and the outside of that rear wing, the little winglet parts, are pretty similar, if not exact, to the RB19. The only car that really has that rear wing philosophy. They also have a pull rod suspension in the front of their car, which is another big thing to note, so pretty much a RB18 copy. But if you noticed, I didn't mention one big thing here, and that is the engine cover. The engine cover is pretty much identical to the Alpine. And I think because of this, it's showing that they're pushing more and more towards that F1 deal. Now, while on the sidelines, it might look like there's a lot of rough stuff happening, I think they're taking progressive steps, like making a deal with Renault, which has been the rumor for a very long time that they're taking those Renault engines up until they can actually put in those GM engines in 2028. And that is an exact copy of that engine intake. I will put it up on screen, and it shows you that they're making steps, at least in my opinion. And on the front wing, just an upgrade that they've kind of added to their car, I guess something that they've kind of looked into, is that front wing has these little dividers, just like the Ferrari car does, and what the Mercedes tried in Austin to promote different airflow. Now, this wasn't allowed in 2022 for the Red Bull, so I guess they're taking advantage of that now being kind of a loophole, but a stupidly similar car. Even the T-tray down there, super similar to what is essentially the RB18. But it's cool that they've gotten this 60% model and they're going this far with it to take it to that next level that Formula One cannot refuse this team. This team brings in new fans, they bring in more sponsorships, they just promote a better environment for Formula One with them being there. I truly believe a team like Andretti belongs in our sport, and I hope you guys think the same way because I don't see any negatives to a team like Andretti joining. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments down below. What do you guys think of the two cars, really the Haas and the Andretti? And what have you analyzed from it? I'd love to hear in your comments down below if you've caught some things that I did not on the Andretti car or even the Haas car. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world. And peace.